Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon and good evening. That's a little tribute to Jim Carrey in his previous movie. Thank you for joining us for the Canadian Agricultural Human Resources Council sharing circles, part of the National Indigenous Agriculture and Food activities that CAHRC has been offering. We are in our third season of these sharing circles. My name is Beverly O'Neill. My traditional name is Clown Pathki. I'm from the Tanaka Nation, and I am grateful to be located to call my home the downtown Vancouver, which is on the unceded lands of Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh First Nation. So thank you for joining us. We do at this moment invite our viewing audience to let us know who's there. Please let us know, add your name, where you're from in the chat box, and also let us know whose traditional lands you're on. We always love to know where people are located and honor our First Nations across the country, as well as our Métis citizens and nation as well. So thank you for joining us. Today's session is on connecting and supporting Indigenous farming and Indigenous agriculture, the role of support services. So we've got three speakers for you today. We've got Monica James from Farm Credit Canada. Monica, give everybody a wave here. We've followed by Camden Lawrence. He's with First Nations Agriculture and Finance Ontario. They're one of our Indigenous capital corporations located across Canada, and these guys focus specifically on agriculture. Not many do, actually. Most of our capital corporations, agriculture is part of the many sectors. So great to see we've got one focusing on there. And also joining us from Agriculture and Agri-Foods Canada is Robert Ransom. Robert, gave people a wave there. And Robert's going to be speaking on the Pathfinders program specifically for Indigenous people. So a quick rundown of our session here. So this is, we've been doing our sessions bi-weekly on Wednesdays itself. We've got two more after today's session itself. We do them on Wednesdays from 12 to 1 Eastern time. Keep them consistent. They're always free for people to attend, and they are always recorded. So if you happen to miss something you want to be reminded of, you can always go back. And other people who weren't able to attend can also view them. On CAHRC's website is also previous sessions from this year, and as well as the previous two seasons that we've done itself. We do target to be finished by the top of the hour, wherever you are located. But two things that happen before we complete, we go over what our next sessions are. You'll also be getting a post-session survey. As soon as you close from Zoom, one opens up. And at the end of the session, before we end it, Aaron Bryson from Canadian Agriculture Human Resources Council, he becomes the most important person. We do a draw of $100 for Indigenous attendees. For those of you who attended our last session and went, did anyone win? Someone did win. What happened was the names got mixed up in the order, so we did a draw after. And when we come to the draw at the end of the day, we'll let you know who won the last session itself. So we've got, Aaron is going to do just a quick welcome on behalf of CAHRC.
Yes, so it's been great so far to have all of these sessions going on, and we're happy to be running them again. And Beverly, as always, is a fantastic moderator, and we always get great speakers too. So thank you all for coming again today, and really looking forward to hearing about partnerships and kind of partnership opportunities and funding available for Indigenous organizations and communities, and hope you get something useful out of the sessions. Hopefully you can get some questions answered. And like Beverly said, we do record the sessions, and we're hoping to have them up soon. I know the last three sessions were not they're not up quite yet, but once they're up, we'll let you know. So without further ado, we'll pass it back on to Beverly.
Great, thank you, Aaron. And one more, we've got Harold Aljum joining us. He's from the Inla Nation, and he's also one of our Indigenous Advisory Committee members, as well as so is Camden Lawrence itself. So Harold, if you can do a quick welcome from our Indigenous Advisory Committee.
Well, good morning, all. I got caught up in a registration circle, and So that's why it took me so long to get on. Yeah, but good morning all. Harold Aljum. I am from the Coldwater Indian Band, First Nations Agriculture President. I guess to be part of this, it's always great to share, to learn what others are doing. But we need to get more active. Our people, I say our people are getting kicked in the pants by these raising costs of food. And to me, their lots are getting just basic, but they need to grow vegetables or some food so that it'll reduce the cost. Now, I'm sure this has happened before in the Great Depression, they call it. A family of ours they were so poor they didn't know there was a depression, but they grew product, I think it is beans, that they traded for all their foods that they needed. They didn't have to buy it, they just traded, and that is successful. So with that, learn from each other and benefit. I'm always looking forward to that. And what great things are being done in other areas of the country. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Harold. I am now going to turn it over to our first speaker here and let her introduce herself as well. Monica James, she's with Farm Credit Canada. I know she's going to add a little bit more in terms of who she is, but Monica is located in Atlantic Canada, has been doing phenomenal work in helping First Nations in Atlantic Canada and others join in partnerships. So you came highly recommended from our contacts in Atlantic Canada as well. Monica's previous life was with Business Development Bank of Canada. So she's got tons of involvement working with First Nations, and also she is an Indigenous person herself. So Monica, over to you. And Harold, I'm going to ask you if you can go off camera now, and so our focus will be on the speaker. And again, for others in the audience, please let us know who's out there. And you can also ask questions in the chat and the Q&A. So we'll have all three of our speakers talk first, and then we'll start into a dialogue and responding to your questions. Over to you, Monica.
Tineke Beverly, thank you very much. So Tansei, my name is Monica James. I'm actually joining you not from Atlantic Canada. I'm joining you from Treaty 1 territory, which is also the homeland of the Red River Métis. So I'm actually going to start off with a video for you today to kind of explain some of the big things that we're doing at Farm Credit Canada to help Indigenous communities when they're actually getting into agriculture. So just give me one quick second. I'm just going to
To me, people are most important than anything else in this community.
Our belief is everything is connected, and what you take, you've got to give something in return from the land, from the tree. That's where the roots come from, and what you build, and everything is connected. And we've tried to look at all different kinds of businesses and sectors that covers all of that. Our hope is to build this farm up to 10,000 acres, and I'm sure we're going to reach that goal.
There's two things that every First Nation has, and it's people and a land base right at home. And I think agriculture in general, more and more First Nations are looking at this as an economic development opportunity. A lot of people are excited about the opportunity and what agriculture could be for First Nations people and communities.
My name's John Wozniak, and I come up here to be a farm manager for Pelican Lake. The challenges are just to get the right personnel to come on the farm and work together as a team.
I talked with John, and he said, well, he'd like some help and needed somebody that had a little bit of experience. So I come on board and been helping him
ever since. I've always wanted to see a farming operation on the reserve here because it's a great sense of life. You get to know the land a little more. Then a lot of the land wasn't getting used, so with the farming operation now, it's being utilized, so I'm very happy about that.
If we all make it work as a unit, just imagine what we can do. Just imagine.
I think it means a lot to the community, like it's showing the young people how to farm and stuff like that. It's been very good seeing that the young guys are taking a great initiative and participating in this farming activity, and they seem to be enjoying it quite a bit, so I'm very happy about that.
No, honestly, I never thought I'd be a farmer. Picked up on a lot of stuff pretty quickly. I just got to get some hands-on experience now.
It's been awesome. I love them. They're great. Alfred has been helping me with a lot, teaching me stuff and giving me knowledge about the fields and all that stuff.
My favorite machine is probably the sprayer. It can cover a lot of ground in such a short time. And
if you look at our staff right now, we're fairly young. And that's encouraging because that's the next generation that has to take over from us. They're willing to learn and want to be here. So if they can learn and pass it on to their children, the farm will be very successful.
It's time that we've stepped forward to manage and take care of our lands. It's our young people that are going to benefit. Not just generation, but the next generation to come. We made it a reality and we're proud of it.
So that is our client, Pelican Lake First Nation. It's one of the first clients that we've actually been able to help 4 communities go from zero to farming. So we talk about some of the things that FCC is working on. There's so many different things that we're able to help. Sorry, I'm just going to share my next screen here. Can you guys see my presentation now? Oh, yes. Okay. So Pelican Lake First Nation is one of those communities that we were able to help. You know, we help communities, we help Indigenous entrepreneurs. And one of the things that we really concentrate is by meeting them where they're at, being able to help them with what they actually need. The unique thing about Indigenous-led agriculture is it's not cookie cutter. It doesn't look the same from community to community. It doesn't look the same from province to province. It's very vast. That's the unique thing that we're able to do. So my name is Monica James, and I'm the Senior Director of Indigenous Financing. I'll say FCC, when it comes to the Indigenous agriculture space, we are the new kid on the block. We have Robert, we have Camden that have been doing this for a long time to be able to help our Indigenous entrepreneurs and communities in agriculture. We've only been around for 2 years. And what FCC realized is that we need to be making a difference to be able to help our communities, making sure that they can thrive and they can be successful. So with Pelican Lake, they actually approached us, and you know, we've like I said before, we've been able to help 4 communities go from zero to farming. Some of them start out really small, where they go from 0 to 700 acres, and some of them go from 0 to 2,000 acres. We're able to help any size of communities that they're looking for. The other thing that we're working on is there's so many communities that have agricultural land that has currently been leased out. You know, it's easy for people to say, well, why don't they actually start farming? We haven't been able to see that in our home fire for a long time. So part of the work that we do at FCC is talk to communities about the possibilities about agriculture, about the possibilities of food security and food sovereignty, and how we can create employment and learning opportunities for our youth, and how we can create our own source revenue right in the community. So who we are, what makes FCC unique is we're the only lender in Canada with an Indigenous team that's helping Indigenous participation in food and agriculture. So we're a national team. We are located right across the country. What you'll see is the individuals that are in Western Canada, those teams work directly for the Indigenous financing team, and they work directly with me. We haven't had the opportunity. We are looking to grow out east, but we do have individuals that have actually said, you know what, we know that this is important, and these are the individuals that we're working with out in Atlantic Canada and all the way over to Ontario. So who do we actually work with? We work with Indigenous communities, First Nations, Métis, and Inuit. We also work with the Indigenous individuals, be it farmers, producers, or entrepreneurs. We can also help when it comes to on reserve or fee simple land. I'm going to share a couple of clients of ours. So on the left, there's Wabanaki Maple, and they're located out in New Brunswick, an Indigenous woman entrepreneur located right on reserve. She has a very unique product that she does. It's aged maple syrup. And then on the right, you're going to see Boreal Heartland. So Boreal Heartland is actually, it's a community-owned business. And what they were doing, both of these businesses, they were doing unique type of agriculture, I guess, in the sense of agriculture. But for Indigenous people, it's not. It's Indigenous-led agriculture. So when it comes to agriculture, people typically think, you know, you have to plant it, you have to water it, you have to nurture it and grow it. But for our people, we actually go to the land and we harvest things from the land. So both of these companies, prior to, you know, FCC having an Indigenous relations team, these type of businesses wouldn't have been eligible because there wasn't that husbandry. So these are the kind of changes that we're able to make by having our Indigenous relations, Indigenous financing team to saying, hey, FCC, we need to look different at who we lend to and how we lend to. So what can we finance? Anybody that's in agriculture, we can finance anything before the gate. So getting everything ready to plant, anything that's happening on the farm, and anything afterwards. So anything, when you think about a jar of salsa, everything that goes into that jar of salsa. So that is going to be, you know, all of the raw materials. It's going to be the packaging. It's going to be the processing, the distribution, the logistics, anything that gets it right to the retailer shelf. That's what we can help out with. So as I mentioned before, traditional Indigenous harvesting is different than agriculture. And we've been able to move the needle here at FCC to saying, hey, we need to do things differently for our Indigenous community members and entrepreneurs to make sure that what they're doing, which is based on the knowledge and their traditions that they've been learning in their community, how they can sustain them, and we need to look at helping them. I'm just going to leave you really quickly here. If there's information that you're looking for, FCC has a whole host of free information on our website. We have videos, we have webinars, we have podcasts, we have lots of different articles and e-newsletters that you can actually sign up for. I'm just going to leave it at that. Here's my contact information. I'll also be putting it in the chat, and I'm happy to answer questions at the end. And that's it.
Excellent. Thanks, Monica. We will have some questions for you, as you mentioned, after all three of our speakers have completed. Great idea. Really great to see that FCC has been looking at Indigenous agriculture in the way we define what agriculture is. So thank you very much. Our next speaker is going to be Camden Lawrence. He's with First Nations Agriculture and Finance Ontario. So really great that Camden has been able to join us. Camden is the general manager, the CEO at the organization, but prior to that, he worked closely with First Nations and Indigenous people in Ontario, helping them to put agriculture into practice itself. So over to Camden.
Yeah, thanks, Beverly. So yeah, so I'm the general manager of First Nation Agriculture and Finance Ontario. Coming from our head office here, but I'm operator of Tyendinaga, Mohawk Territory down by Bay of Quinte. Many of you may remember formerly we were the Indian Agricultural Program of Ontario. Just late last year, we've made a name change. So anybody familiar with IAPO, we're the same organization, just a different name. We are an Indigenous financial institution. We service all of Ontario for First Nation agricultural lending. So anything agriculture and agribusiness based in Ontario, we're able to support it. We have the ability to do up to $1 million on any project. And I don't have a presentation for you today, but I'm just going to run through some of our programming. First programming that we have is the Beginning Farmer Program. In the name being beginning, you must be new to farming. Has an age on it of 16 to 40. It's for new agricultural startups. It's to a maximum of $50,000. the client is required to put 5% down, and that would come back with a grant back on the loan amount of 30%. This is more of a hands-on program, so the program helps you write a business plan, pairs you with a mentor, and just there's a lot more supports in it. The next program that we have is the First Nation Business Startup and Expansion Program. This would be the next step beyond the beginning farmer. This is to a maximum of $100,000. The applicant would need to write their own business plan and provide 10% down towards the project, and then the program would match their equity contribution with a 10% grant. Next program we have is called the e-commerce program. So this is for agricultural projects, or agricultural businesses, I should say, and farms that are looking to transition their business to more online, more digital sales. For example, through this program, we had a client that took all of their orders by phone in pen and paper. So they used this program to build an online kind of order system. So instead of being inside most of the day taking phone calls and collecting orders, at the end of the day they could come in and all of their orders would just be online, and they could do a printout and then get their orders ready that are going to go out the next day. This program provides $8,000 grant to help implement either a website or an ordering platform, or maybe there's some ads to promote the farm, that kind of thing. We have two programs through our First Nations Women Entrepreneur Program. The first is the loan program. That's up to $15,000 for First Nation women to start either a business or a part-time business or a side hustle. They're required to put 5% down towards loan amount, and then it comes with a 32% grant. The first year is no payments on the loan, and then payments in the second year. Along with the First Nation Women's Entrepreneurship Program is someone that's not in the phase of ready to take on a loan or know exactly what they're doing for their business. There's a mentorship program which covers a span of 6 months, where depending on what kind of agricultural business you're looking to do, you'd be paired with a mentor for 6 months. The mentor through the program is paid $3,000, and the mentee is paid $3,000. And in that 6 month span, and through working together, the goal would be to have kind of a rough business plan on which way you're going to, or the individual would like to take their business, and then the hope would be to move on to the loan program to get the business up and running. The next program is a partnership that we have. So some of our bigger loans, if you're looking to do a big project and using some of these programs, we have a partnership with Aboriginal Impact Capital, which is a straight grant program. The funds are given up to $75,000 in contributions, which are given on a percentage basis. They're given at 40% for capital costs and operating costs, 75% grant for marketing, business planning, and business support. So just to put it in rough perspective, to max out or to receive a full grant contribution through AIC, you'd be looking at a total project of about $187,500 is kind of what the project would be. But that program is kind of geared towards starting a farm, purchasing a farm, which would be a high cost, and then getting all your equipment, kind of upwards in that upwards toward the $1 million project. And just I'd like to restate kind of at the beginning, all of these programs are eligible for any agriculture and agri-based business in Ontario for First Nation status individuals. And anybody interested in contacting us regarding any of these programs, I'll put my information in the chat below. And just feel free to reach out and we can connect you with the right individual for your area and depending on what program you're looking to get into.
Great. Anything else, Camden, that you wanted to add right now?
I'm good.
Not at the moment. You guys have tons and tons of programs. So what I did for the viewing audience, I've just added the First Nations Agriculture and Finance Ontario website into the link there. So tons of stuff available. And then if you have any questions for Camden, we'll open up questions after our next speaker. Thank you, Camden, very much. Our next speaker is Robert Ransom. And Robert is with Agriculture and Agri-Foods Canada itself. So he's going to be speaking on the Pathfinders program. So Robert.
Yes, Kwe, Robert Ransom, Nijimekaz, Pikwakanagan, Nidwan Jaba. My name is Robert Ransom. I'm an Algonquin from Pikwakanagan. I'm coming to you from the National Capital Region, which is on the unceded, unsurrendered territory of my people, the Algonquin Anishinaabe people. I'm the manager of the Indigenous Pathfinder Service with Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada. What we do in the Pathfinder Service is we're that connection between Indigenous communities, people, organizations, and Agriculture Canada, as well as the federal government. And what we try to do is to help you in the process of identifying and applying for funding for your Indigenous agriculture projects. What we do is we will listen to you, listen to your project. We can suggest next steps. We can help you refine your ideas. We don't just have funding available. We do have AFC Sciences and developmental agencies that are available that we can connect you with. We discuss what funding you're looking for. We try to identify your best avenues to find that funding. And we will help you go through the process of applying for the funding. We, of course, don't have funding ourselves in the Pathfinder service, but we can help you work with the different program areas to attempt to get funding to qualify for and receive it in the future. We've been around since 2018. We've served actually, we're now well over 500 Indigenous clients all across Canada. And these range from requests for funds in the $5,000 to $10,000 range up to requests well over $1 million. And we do try to work with you, and we will continue to work with you to identify where the funding source might be. Within Agriculture Canada, there are a number of different avenues. Our direct programs under the Sustainable CAP program, like agri-diversity, youth employment and skills, business risk management, and under business management, we have agri-stability, agri-invest, agri-insurance, agri-risk, and it goes on the list of programs we do have available. So if you do have any questions, and it doesn't matter how big or how small you are, we work with individuals, we work with communities, we work with corporations. We also do some work with non-Indigenous groups who are helping to serve Indigenous communities. We're willing to work with you, identify your project, and help take you into the next step. And we do also, besides working with government agencies at the federal level, we do have access and communicate with our provincial counterparts to recommend their provincial programs, and also to work with organizations like FCC to identify places for alternate sources of funding. At the bottom of the screen, you'll see the contact information for the Pathfinder service. And that's it in a nutshell, Beverly.
Great, thank you, Robert. So this is where we get into the Q&A part of our program. So the other speakers, Camden and Monica, if you can come on screen, that would be terrific. Quick shout out though to our viewing audience. Thank you for joining us. We've got, like I mentioned, we have people from across the country here and as well into the United States. So thank you to, for example, Janine Hallbrook, who's logging in from Aubrey, California, with a Big Sandy band of Western Mono Indians and Big Sandy Ranchero of Mono Indians of California, and they're working in agriculture as well. So thank you for joining us. A quick question that came up in the Q&A is to Farm Credit Canada. And the question was, and Monica's answered it, but for the benefit of everyone else, do you provide grants for community agricultural projects? So over to you, Monica.
Yeah, you know what? We sure do. We actually have two. One is the FCC Community Investment Fund, where communities can apply for grants up to $10,000. It's almost fully subscribed for the year. We're going to be taking applications starting April 1st. We also have another one called Agri-Spirit. So the Community Investment Fund is just specifically for Indigenous projects. The Agri-Spirit Fund, where you can get a grant up to $25,000, is for everybody in Canada. So last year, I think that they had about 600 applicants for the Agri-Spirit Fund, where you can get up to $25,000. And I believe that we only had enough money to support about 75 projects. So you probably, if you're looking for a grant, you probably would have a better chance with the Community Investment Fund. I mean, there's no guarantees because it's a set pot of money, and we want to make sure that we have good representation across the country too. So if we're getting lots from one province, sometimes we put a pause on that to make sure our other cousins across the country are able to get some supports as well.
Great, thanks, Monica. I've got a question for all three of you. What is the usual cycle in your, well, for Robert, it would be the support services, Camden, your funding, Monica, your funding. What is the usual cycle? When is a good time for people to apply? How do they contact? Like, what is a typical good approach for an applicant or someone exploring getting into the agriculture field? And there's my first pun of the day, agriculture field. Sorry.
No, that's a good one. I like that. So for Agri-Spirit, they accept applications in April, and you won't find out until August. For the Community Investment Fund, the turnover is a bit quicker. It's probably about a 6-week turnaround from the time that you apply, just because we have to make sure that we have all the right information. I know that, Robert probably knows of more, when you're looking for community funding type of projects, in the realm of things, FCC, I mean, our share is so small. Robert probably knows of other ones that, you could probably access a lot more. Because I've heard of others. I was just at an event yesterday, and the Manitoba Métis Federation was talking about some good supports that they've been able to receive from the federal government. The majority of the work that we do is actually with term loans with financing that we provide for communities or individuals in farming or in food.
Well, I'll take your lead and step in now. As far as Agriculture Canada goes, we have a number of programs which are continuous intake, meaning you could apply at any point to these programs, and the Pathfinders will help link you up with those. We also do have programs that occur on a more periodic basis, and they will accept applications for a set period of time or else until we get overprescribed and the funding is used up. Now, for those, we do offer one thing to our clients is we can contact you when programs are about to be announced. So you're aware of when they're coming out, how long the program's intake period is going to be, and also give you some information on what type of program it is.
Excellent. So, Robert, with that in mind, you had, in the PDF file that you had offered, it had, projects across the country that you're doing. So your regional people sounds like they're pretty familiar with the programming and support services in those provinces and territories. Is that true?
Yes, we do rely on our regional people. We will contact them when we do have projects. If the person contacting says it's okay for us to contact them. We do like to work through our regional people. They are the experts in their regions. And a lot of times we can work with them to ensure that a project has the best chance of success.
Thanks, Robert. Over to you, Camden. What is a good process in terms of working with your organization?
Yeah, same as Robert. We do continual intake throughout the year. Many of our programs revolve around government calendar. So someone looking to apply, just be aware, March coming into, December 31st to March 31st is kind of a busy, everything year end, and then coming into the end of a kind of the government year end. So that's kind of a busy time, but no, anyone can either reach out to the office, or we have, an info email on the website, and we would intake any inquiries and put them into the right program, and yeah, at any time.
Sounds like something that would be a good suggestion is if you even have an idea, just contact the organizations early on, because timing in agriculture varies so much. And as you mentioned, some programs are only available at certain times, and other ones it's a continual intake. So you don't know what your best fit is until you talk to the agencies.
Bev, I just want go ahead, Camden. No, I was just going to say there's one more fund that we have. It's an Indigenous school food assistance program where schools can get $1,000 to feed their students. So right now we are undersubscribed with that. We have a lot of good representation in Western Canada, Camden, or anybody else that's out there in Eastern Canada. We really want to be able to help feed the kids that are in Eastern Canada. So please send in your applications, and I put that in the contact chat. And please share this link with anybody that you know, because we want to make sure that we're able to get out there and really help the kids.
Thanks. Monica, I've got a question for you. In the map you provided, there was a lot in the provinces, but do you have services available to our First Nations and Indigenous people in the north?
Yes, absolutely. We help anybody from coast to coast to coast. So all that they have to do is reach out to me, and we'll be able to get you connected with the right people. And it really depends on where they are located in the north, because we want to make sure that they get the right person to help them.
Yeah. Yeah. So coast to coast, north to south. Exactly. So we've got a question here to Farm Credit Canada. It says, can you explain a little more about what the traditional Indigenous gathering and collecting business may look like?
The traditional, let me look at that question.
Yeah, it's in the Q&A.
Traditional Indigenous gathering and collecting business. Oh, so you know what? Like for Boreal Heartland, that business, they actually went out and got Labrador tea, right? So if you think of any sort of traditional work that they're doing, the maple syrup, right? They're not actually producing it; they're just getting it right from Mother Earth. So anything that they're out able to gather. Another one would be wild rice, right? So it's nothing that they're actually going out there and planting; it's something that's there that they're able to gather. And I think the most important thing that we need to remember is that when you come to FCC for a loan, it has to be a commercial viable business where you're going to, sell your product and you're going to be able to pay off your loan. So majority of the work that we do is for term financing for businesses. And then we do, like I had mentioned, those 3 funds that we have to support community projects.
That's great. For all of you, and when we talk about Indigenous agriculture, we include foraging and harvesting in that as well. Are any of your funding programs have a prerequisite for meeting any food safety standards itself?
I think there's probably industries, right? Like when you have an abattoir, something like that. If you have very sensitive type of food handling industries, I wouldn't say for all of them, but definitely for some of them.
Yeah. So
I would
definitely
say
we do.
the best thing is just to reach out to myself, and we'll be able to answer that question specifically, or if you had one in mind. You have to remember, I'm new to FCC. I've only been here for a year. So prior to joining FCC, I used to work at Business Development Bank of Canada, where for 20 years I just dedicated my career to helping Indigenous entrepreneurs across the country access capital. So agriculture is very new to me, so I'm learning, but I'm able to help you find the right answers. And for anybody that's asked a question that I didn't answer specifically what you're looking for, like I said, please feel free to reach out.
Yeah, like the Wabanaki maple syrup, if anyone has yet to try it, highly recommend it. Our favorite syrup out here in amongst my friends is Wabanaki syrups. It's absolutely delicious, and they have the right labeling and the right packaging. And by the way, that's a little segue into our next session in 2 weeks is on foraging and harvesting with Small Scale Food Processors Association speaking, and Chef Ray Bear from Atlantic Canada. Over to you, Camden. What about linking your borrowers with the regulatory agencies?
Yeah, so we're in Ontario. We, would link them kind of with OMAPRA. One thing that's kind of, I guess, just one of the areas that comes to mind of concern is maple syrup, which is one we try to keep regulated. Just lead and that kind of things. Try to link them with OMAPRA so they're not, doing anything harmful in the communities.
Maple syrup, liquid gold. Yeah, liquid gold next to and honey is coming up there as well. Robert, what about your representatives in the Pathfinders program? How connected are they with some of the other regulatory agencies?
We're not as connected in terms of the regulatory agencies. We do when we link you up with a program. That's where the program areas will come in. And as part of the assessment and evaluation of your project is to take a look at the regulations and rules surrounding that actual project. And if you don't meet it, they will provide you information on who you need to contact to meet the standards for that project to succeed.
So connecting them with the right people that can go through the details, because it can be quite complex. We have a question here from Kanak. He asked that he's new to Canada and wanted to know who he could reach out to get some assistance in getting started in greenhousing, seed production, and vertical farming.
Well, it depends on where he's located. So I would suggest that maybe you reach out to me, because I'll be able to connect you with somebody specifically for that.
Great. And Monica's email is in the link in the chat itself. Others here, what does the future look like in your organization, and any opportunities you see coming up?
At FCC, our Indigenous financing team, we are expanding. So we are going to be hiring out east. We're looking to hire 2 to potentially 3 individuals out east. We're always, and one thing I say at FCC, and I think really any organization, is I don't think that our Indigenous people have to work on our Indigenous relation projects or our Indigenous financing team. I think it's important for being able to get them opportunities to be able to work anywhere in the country. But our financing team will be expanding out east. And I would imagine in the following year, we're probably going to be hiring more in Western Canada as well.
Camden, what do you see as the future opportunities for First Nations and Indigenous Métis and Inuit people in agriculture?
Yeah, I definitely think there's tons of opportunities. I mean, our whole goal in pushing agriculture is, self-sufficiency. And, First Nation communities providing, sustainable agriculture for their communities. And that's kind of what we're pushing. And right now we have a big push. One of the programs we're running, we created a First Nations Ag in the Classroom to try to teach how involved First Nation people were in agriculture, and then that kind of ties in the last lesson is kind of opportunities in agriculture to try to spur some interest and kind of I guess reinvigorate youth back into the agricultural sector is kind of the big push we're doing right now. As we see a lot of our members upwards in the 80s, 70s and 80s still trying to hang on with not much succession coming in. So that's kind of our big push right now. And I don't know, I kind of got off topic on what we're looking to do.
You were talking about getting young people involved and helping them to understand how First Nations, Indigenous people have grown. There's my second pun. Growing agriculture itself. I like that you mentioned you help to provide and inform our young people, our kids, on how we've contributed to agriculture. I mean, I think of movie theaters. What do we spend the most money on at movie theaters? Not the movie, the popcorn. And we would not have popcorn if it wasn't for Native Americans figuring out that corn could be dried and turned into that white puffy, there's the other bit, white puffy gold. Yes, with butter on it. So that's really great. Hey, Camden, I wanted to ask you a question here, and this will go to Monica too. Both of you have talked about your funding programs and requiring a contribution or commitment from the applicant, whether it's 10% down, 5 down, whatever it is. What types of contributions are you looking for? Is it just cash, assets, in kind?
Yeah, I can go. So ours are strictly not generally cash, but it's, say you're looking to buy a tractor and it's, $10,000. You would have to give the vendor or the person selling it like 1,000, and then it would be the loan would pay the rest. So it's usually a contribution towards whatever the project costs are. In our instance, we don't do kind of in kind or sweat equity.
Yeah, so it really depends on what it is. So sometimes in kind or sweat equity is recognized. It really depends on what you're applying for.
Yeah, there's some programs that do, but none of ours accept it. Ours are all kind of cash contributions.
Okay, great, thanks, Camden. What about you, Monica? What about Farm Credit Canada?
Yeah, ours are going to be the same as well. And I think when when you look at Camden and myself, or really any Indigenous financial institution, as a financial institution, we need to take security on what we're actually financing. And sometimes when we have those in-kind assets or in-kind contributions that are coming from the equipment that they have, typically the security, it's like you drive your vehicle off the lot, it ends up depreciating. So even though you bought something 5 years ago, it's what's that value that you have there. So it depends on how long ago was it purchased. So it really depends, but majority of the time it's just going to be straight cash as well.
Great, thanks. With these funding programs, a lot of times you're pairing, you go to one source, you apply to another one. Are there any restrictions in partnering the funding with other funding sources, whether it's provincial or another agency? Sometimes there is.
Yes, in Ontario, I can't speak to the rest of the provinces, but in Ontario, you can't stack 2 provincial programs together, and you can't stack 2 federal programs together. But you could do so. How ours works is like our First Nation Business Startup and Expansion Program is provincial, and then we can stack that with the Aboriginal Impact Capital, which is federal. But we couldn't stack 2 of our provincial programs together.
Monica?
I think it's important to clarify between funding, like contributions, grants, and financing. So when we're looking at a project, it's all financing is what we do. And so when individuals are coming to us and they want to do like a community garden, that's not something that we're going to be able to finance, but we might be able to fund under one of our programs. So, and the first thing that we typically ask individuals that come to us is, have you contacted your local Indigenous financial institution? Because they know the market really well. They know the programs and services that are out there. They're typically very well connected with people like Robert to know of all the grants that are out there to be able to help them to get that. So we don't have any restrictions, because if we're going to be doing the grant, we're not going to be doing the financing. one or the other, because at $10,000, it's typically not that much, you know, for a project that we're looking to do. So, and we want to make sure that they're getting what they actually need. And, you know, we typically, I always say, go and see who else you can get the funding from or the financing, and we can always be the filler. It's not about us getting the biggest portion of it. It's about what's in the best interest of the individual and how can we work best with the IFIs.
Great, thank you. And Robert, with the Pathfinders advisors and support services, is that something they can help the applicants to navigate? Is so that they can avoid the stacking? You know, you don't want to depend on two sources of provincial or federal funding and realize that, oops, you can only get one. Is that something Pathfinders can help with?
Yes, yes, it is something Pathfinders can help with. We've actually worked with FCC a few times where we've provided a contribution, and we provide 70 or 80%, and the funding for the remaining 20% has come through FCC or similar organizations. So we do allow for stacking with a number of our government programs up to a certain point, and we can help individuals navigate what they'd require on the other side.
So it sounds like, again, it's just really important with anyone who's looking for either a grant or a loan or both to check with, and I would say probably first contact a Pathfinder with Ag Canada, and they can help you navigate the complicated field on number 3, complicated field of trying to piece together a project, because timing is also going to be very important in that, especially again in agriculture where it's so dependent on seasonality and cycles as well. This is where we go to ask I'll go Monica, then Camden and Robert. Any final comments or advice or suggestions, tips you might have for our listeners? Monica.
Well, first, okay, sorry. One thing I'd say is a conversation, cup of coffee is free. So, you know, if you call one of us, we're not going to write you down for anything. It's just have that conversation. We're willing to look at things. Like I said, FCC is new at this game. We're new when it comes to supporting Indigenous, specifically in agriculture, but we're learning. And so we're going to be changing things as we go. It doesn't hurt to have those conversations, and we're always here. And we hope that we can be able to help you with any projects that you're looking at. Or if we can't, the big thing is to connect you with the Camdens and the Roberts of the world and know what's going on out there. We're also looking to expand what we're doing in our fisheries to be helping our communities, because out on the coast, either coast, there's a lot of fisheries happening.
Tons of stuff. And some of it, I know we're talking agriculture, but sometimes when we talk about agriculture for First Nations on the coast, agriculture includes fisheries. So it's also linking with that. Camden, you're next. Comments, tips, suggestions.
Yeah, same as Monica. If you know you're trying to sort something out, the best thing is just to call in and speak with someone that kind of is doing it every day, whether it's Monica or myself or Rob. You know, they could probably solve your problem in a couple minutes, or compared to battling through FCC's webpage or even our website, our webpage. Trying to sort out what you're going to do, where your phone call just take a couple minutes.
Help you navigate the lay of the land, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Was that number 4? Robert, what about you? Tips, suggestions, comments?
I would suggest that make that phone call, send that email. As soon as you get in touch with us, we'll start helping you. And it's the same, I know, with both Camden and Monica. Once you've made that first contact, you're on your way. It's a matter of sitting down, listening, and discussing what's necessary and what's needed. And I do find with Agriculture Canada, we have a lot more than just the funding available. We have a lot of scientists, marketers, business information specialists. So we can help you with some of the other things, as well as just finding you that dollar you need to start your business. We can help you in understanding your business and deciding where do you want to go with your business.
That's great. You know, I mentioned fisheries is how we define it's, you know, part of how First Nations define the food side, because we're really talking about food. And you know, and for First Nations it may also mean connecting with forestry, whether it's a provincial or a federal agency, because of non-timber forest products. I mentioned fisheries. And as we've heard in previous conversations, for First Nations, when we talk about food, we also talk about health. And one of our speakers in a previous season, Stephanie Cook, with the vertical garden in, I think it's Manitoba, that their vertical garden was started because of the need to improve community people's health and reverse the effects of diabetes. So keep that in mind too, that health may also be another area for you to seek some financing in. In the link to everybody, I've added in the link to the National Aboriginal Capital Corporations for, with the Indigenous finance institutions I've mentioned, called them Aboriginal Capital Corporations, Indigenous Capital Corporations, but they're also called Indigenous Finance Institutes. So I've given you the link there. So Camden, really glad you were able to join us today, because the First Nations Agriculture and Finance Ontario is, I think, a very key organization that can show other IFIs how to support Indigenous participation in agriculture, because you guys are dedicated to that. So thank you for joining us, as well as to Monica James, Farm Credit Canada. Really happy to see all of the things you guys are doing across the country. Wabanaki maple syrup, I do not have shares in that. Again, it's absolutely delicious, and really happy to hear about Boreal Heartland, and also to Robert Ransom to the support services there. And by the way, I know that, you know, talking with Ag Canada, with some of the support people, they've been very key with helping us to link to people doing great things and to get people connected. So they're also a terrific source that way. To everybody else, this is the time where now we go into bringing Aaron Bryson forward here, our most important guy. He's the one that brings up the draw. So as he's getting ready to do that, just a quick thing about our next sessions coming up. We've got two more sharing circles. This is, of course, our next sharing circles coming up. Practices in harvesting and foraging. As I mentioned, we've got Small Scale Food Processors Association of Canada with Candace Appleby joining us on that one, and Chef Ray Bear, who is living in Atlantic Canada, and he's working that. Ray is an Indigenous person and has operated his own restaurant. So for those of you that want to look into how can you harvest and forage safely, even if it's just for offering it in a community event, really important stuff coming in that way. And also it can help you plan out your own pathway in terms of starting from harvesting and foraging, whether it's on mushrooms, wild mushrooms, and bringing it to the table, offering it in farmers markets and local retail, or getting into larger scale production itself. This is a great place to start. And then our last session for the season will be on March 6th. And as Monica and Camden mentioned, Indigenous women, focusing on supporting more Indigenous women getting into agriculture. We're going to bring in a couple panelists to talk about how they got into agriculture itself. And again, Ag Canada, CAHRC will be is in the process of developing some guides, startup guides and information sheets to help you get started and find the right connections there as well.